Welcome to the DL. This is the show where we talk about everything in the truck and equipment repair industry. It's my job to help inform and educate you on ways to help your business. We talk with technicians, business owners, associations, industry experts, manufacturers, and even a few you wouldn't think traditionally apply to your business. All right, everyone, welcome to Season 2 of the DL. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for the first season. We had a great time, 26 episodes, tens and tens of thousands of views across Apple Podcast, across Android devices, across the web, across the YouTube channel. It was truly a great thing to see from everybody. And this year on Season 2, we have a star-studded lineup that we're going to be going through. I have CEOs, I have authors, I have entrepreneurs, I have industry-leading experts that you're about to hear from here on today's episode. I even have a comedian coming on this year, and you're going to have to figure out how that kind of ties into the whole thing of truck diagnostics and sales, but it definitely does. And if Ian's listening to this, he knows exactly what we're talking about. So more than anything, again, just thank you for everyone for going through us the first season. We're going bigger and badder than we ever have before. It's going to be a great lineup this year. We're going to have a new intro, all kinds of new stuff going on. It's going to be absolutely crazy. And with that said, I'd like to introduce today's guest on the podcast show here on the DL, and that'd be Braden, VP of Sales of Transportation Logistics for Uptake. So Braden, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Tyler. Excited to be here today.
All right, so let's just go right off the bat. Who the heck is Uptake, and what do you guys do? Give us everyone a little background, a little color on everything with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So Uptake was founded and built on the belief of creating an industrial world that always works. We help our customers move from diagnostic and preventive maintenance techniques to more of a predictive maintenance practice. We've built an industrial AI platform and software products that equip maintenance and reliability teams with recommendations that reduce unplanned downtime, remove unexpected maintenance issues, and save fuel costs. We use real-time data from sensors and fault codes along with historical failure data, and combine this data with the power of AI and machine learning to predict failures before they occur.
So I'm sorry, but I've been around truck dealerships for a long time, right? I worked at OEM truck dealerships, and when we worked there, everyone kind of talked about the predictive thing, and it was basically then just looking at repair orders and trying to figure out what hours or miles certain things failed at so you can get ahead of it. But that's not kind of quite what you do. You guys go way beyond just analyzing historical data.
That's right. Yeah. And there's a couple industry trends that have really lined up over the past couple of years that have allowed us to get to this point. So number one is the advancement of data being collected through the standard protocol. So whether it's J1939, J1708, there's a continuous increase of that data being collected. But the cost to transmit that data in the past has been a blocker. But the more that cost comes down, we can gain access to that data in real time and ingest that time series data into a platform. New techniques like AI and machine learning is able to really read that data in real time to understand when is a particular component giving off signals that is unhealthy. You take a look at a diesel particulate filter, and if we can continuously monitor the differential pressure of the air flowing through that filter, we can really understand how it's feeling in real time.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've started to learn too, and from talking to people such as your company and people, we have engineers here, and everyone always believes there's a fault code that happens, right? And then there's something broken, but there's a series of events that lead up to that fault code, and if you guys are getting ahead of it, you're actually looking before the fault code occurs to see, this is trending in the wrong direction. But what's interesting is, I use the word prognostics. I don't know if that's the right terminology to use in this case, or what terminology you use, but you hear fleet maintenance software companies say they can do it. You hear telematics companies say, we can do it. Even some OEMs are trying to say they can do it as well. I mean, what's the difference from what they're saying to what you guys really do at Uptake?
Yeah, and I think one of the main differentiators of Uptake is that we've really moved beyond kind of the science project phase. It is no longer looking at this in a laboratory saying, give us all your data, give us 6 months to a year, and let us figure out a use case for AI or machine learning. We've invested over $300 million into our industrial AI platform to deliver insights really quickly to our customers. It's no longer months. We're talking about a matter of days or 1 to 2 weeks where a customer can start seeing predictive insights in our application and realizing that value in the field.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point too, because you guys don't do just commercial trucks. You do a pretty wide variety of industries. You can kind of tell about maybe kind of where you guys got started and that progression into trucks, I think is probably the better story here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Uptake as a company is about 6 years old, and our initial foray into the industrial world was working on locomotives. So we partnered with Progress Rail, who's a locomotive OEM, and have built and deployed a condition monitoring application that is ingesting sensor data from locomotives around the globe and providing tools to make those technicians and reliability professionals a little bit smarter and a little bit more precise in the way that they're maintaining those locomotives. So anything from locomotives to wind turbines to aerospace, certainly heavy construction equipment, both in yellow iron on the mining side. We work across the Department of Defense with the U.S. Army and the Marine Corps. When you talk about operational readiness, nothing is more important when you're looking at that than the Marines and the U.S. Army. So it's an application and a platform that is able to span across all these industries. We can learn a lot from a diesel-powered locomotive that can quickly translate to a Class 8 tractor-trailer.
So I saw something come across LinkedIn the other day, and it was, I think, posted on your LinkedIn company page about Berkshire Hathaway. And actually, you guys were working with them and doing some stuff there. And Berkshire Hathaway, for the people that don't know, Berkshire Hathaway is Warren Buffett's company, essentially, right? This huge conglomerate of a bunch of companies that's, been one of the best stock performers over the last, half century, I guess, at this point. So, what did you do for Berkshire Hathaway? I mean, I guess they do own some trucks, right? But they must do other things as well that you guys got involved with them on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the use case that we targeted for Berkshire Hathaway was specific to their energy business. So they have a couple energy subsidiaries. They run and have wind farms across North America that we are working to monitor remotely, deliver those insights that allow them to repair the wind turbines before they fail, and also to increase the efficiency and the energy output of these particular turbines. So monitoring things like the gearbox or the way that the turbine is actually pointed in what direction to make sure it's most efficient. So it's condition monitoring to its fullest, and it's we were able to deploy our software and save them over $250,000 within a week's time, just catching a catastrophic failure on one of their wind turbines.
Yeah, I got to imagine a failure on a big, huge wind turbine. Those things are huge monsters, right? It takes like a trailer or a flatbed to haul one blade on those things. So I can only imagine the expense of taking one of those things down and trying to repair it. It's got to be just off the charts. And with Berkshire Hathaway just buying a $10 billion pipeline operation or something, they just bought from the local energy company here, the power company. So they're a great company, Berkshire Hathaway. I own stocks. I should say that to everybody. But so at the end of the day, you guys are in a ton of different applications, a ton of different industries. But let's go back to commercial truck for a minute. Can you explain what devices you use inside the cab, or how are you getting that data out of the truck? And I'm assuming you're pushing it to the cloud, and then your AI tools taking over and going from there. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons why we're heavily targeting the commercial vehicle space is because the data is readily accessible, especially with the ELD mandate. Everybody needs a telematics device plugged into their tractor. And all of that diagnostic and sensor information can be sent through the existing telematics device that's installed. So whether that's through an aftermarket telematics provider or more recently OEMs rolling connected trucks off the line, we connect to the data sources that are already installed on these trucks and send that data into our platform via cloud and cellular transmission. And then that's where the AI and machine learning is applied to that data and then sent back out to the end customers.
All right, so I get it. You get the data off the truck, which is brilliant, being able to use their hardware, not having to actually put hardware in the vehicle. That's great savings for everybody. You're getting a twofer there, kind of, with your telematics device and your data. So the data goes up into your cloud, your machine learning, your AI, and it computes it out. And what does the end user see? How does the end user interpret that data and do something with it? Can you walk through that process a little bit?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tyler, and certainly, one that we've focused on a lot at Uptake, because data and insights can be the greatest in the world, but they have to be simplistic and easy to understand for the end user to recognize that value. So we've really delivered these insights via two distinct paths. We have a suite of software applications that have been built around user feedback, trying to make them user-friendly and empower maintenance professionals to understand and quickly digest the data and then take action on it from a maintenance and repair perspective. So our software application is one avenue, but we also understand the need and the importance of integrating into existing workflows. So there's a whole suite of maintenance management systems, CMMS systems, that we can send our information out to via an API connection, so it shows up in the technician's workbox the same way that they're used to everything else showing up. So it's both through our software applications and that direct integration.
Yep. So if customers, if they want, could they build their own platform and just tie into your API in that cloud and build whatever they need around their software for their technicians or service managers or company execs? If that's possible to do then?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So the AI machine learning is running in real time on our platform, and the insights will be sent out the minute that they're triggered, and they can integrate them into their workflow, which way makes sense.
So I'd like to talk about some real world examples of where people could use your product and services to better themselves. So can you give an example or two of a situation where you guys can be predictive when it revolves around commercial truck diagnostics?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the more recent examples that we targeted for one of our customers was specific to CNG powered tractors. So compressed natural gas, it's got a lot of benefits that come along with it, but also some reliability issues that have been showing up. So this particular customer came to us with a increased occurrence of cylinder head failures, valve recession happening within the cylinder head at a mileage point where it shouldn't be happening. So taking data from around the cylinder head itself and also upstream of the cylinder head and also downstream within the exhaust system to really understand when the data would start to show us early indicators that a failure was happening. And so by analyzing that data in real time and cross-correlating that data, we're able to get in front of those failures and actually now understand when it makes sense to pull the head off, do the proper tests and replace either the valves or the seals around it before it cascades and actually melts the catalyst. So you're looking at repairing this early where it might be still an $8,000 to $10,000 repair, as opposed to letting it sit for 6 months, 12 months, burning the catalyst where it becomes a $40,000, $50,000 repair.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was a service manager of a truck repair shop, and I can't tell you how many times we got repairs in where we're like, man, if the guy would have fixed this one problem way back here, they would have saved themselves $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 6 months later. And a lot of times that's from neglect of maintenance or not doing walkarounds or whatever. But you guys are actually even getting so far ahead of it now. It's really like the next evolution of fault codes almost, where if it's a fault code, it's almost too late at that point. There's already a problem. So you guys get ahead of it, which is fantastic, and obviously a huge money saving, because it's not often the repair that costs people money. It's that downtime that really kills them, as you talked about earlier with the turbine example. So,
and so the fault codes is it's another big topic of discussion in the commercial vehicle space today. Fault codes are a great indicator of when things have happened, or they're a great source of reference as to what the failure mode that's occurring on that vehicle actually is. But what we've heard from the industry is they become noisy really quickly. And especially when you're running a mixed fleet of different OEMs, different makes, different models, different powertrains, how do I interpret and decipher a DPF fault code from one OEM versus a DPF fault code from another? And a lot of times what we hear from the market is we're just going to turn those off. And there's too much noise in there and too much false positive to actually try to understand and get in front of failures.
Yeah, we experienced a really similar problem where, we have a call center here with 30 people in there, and a third of them are diesel techs. And people often call in and say, hey, I got this computer hooked up. I got, 9 fault codes. What do I do? And they have no idea. And it's not because they're uneducated, just because there's been a lack of information and they don't have all the right resources, especially with the smaller repair shops and smaller fleets. Those dealerships and the big fleets, they typically have access to industry professionals and OEM software and OEM contacts. So it's a very difficult thing. So I'd like to just talk about one other thing that's kind of like on everyone's mind lately with electric trucks, alternative energy trucks, right? So we have Tesla that came out with theirs 2 years ago, and they're about ready to launch and go into production. We got Nikola that obviously came on the market here recently, and for some weird reasons worth more than Ford, even though they have no factory and only 200 250 employees, no product, but that's another conversation. But then you got those other ones that are coming out now, and you got Daimler Chrysler, you got Volvo starting to mass produce their electric trucks. How much of this changes with electric trucks? Because now we don't have after treatment systems. Heck, we don't even have engines, right? So where do you think this goes with electric trucks, and how do you see that kind of impacting kind of what you're doing and some of the problems you're trying to solve?
Yeah, it's certainly the wave of the future, and something that is going to change the way that a lot of businesses operate. And I think while a lot of the challenges that the internal combustion engine and the diesel after treatment system have caused us over the past decade and longer, the same type of challenges will arise with electric trucks, whether it's around the wearable components, whether it's around the electrical system itself, the battery, but also how do I optimize the way that I manage my business based on this new maybe constraint with the electrical system itself. So one of the challenges that we're set to face is within the diesel and gasoline engines that we have a long history of failure. We know very well how those things fail and usually why they fail and what the proper repair is. Now, we haven't got to that critical mass of data from an electrical vehicle perspective to understand all the failure modes. But there's a technique that we use at Uptake, and we've used this on a number of our different customers, machine learned anomaly detection. So without understanding what the failure is, I can still understand what normal looks like for an individual asset or an individual component and alert a professional, a reliability engineer when something goes outside of normal. We'll have to go through the extra step to tag what that abnormal means in terms of a failure, but it still allows us really quickly to understand when things are going wrong and get in front of them from a maintenance perspective.
Yeah. So your website lists a lot of customers. You mentioned a couple of them, the U.S. Army, U.S. Marines. I also saw CAT on there, Rolls-Royce. I mean, there's some big names on there. Any success stories? I know you talked about some. Is there any on the truck side? I know you guys are doing some stuff and you're making progress there. Can you give us any kind of glimpse on what you're seeing on the transportation side of things?
Yeah, so our customers on the transportation side are seeing really good results. So we see a maintenance expense reduction in the range of about 7 to 10%. This comes through a couple different levers. Certainly, it's avoiding those catastrophic failures that we talked about a little bit earlier. It's being able to create efficiencies in the shop network. So can I add events to a PM and avoid an unplanned event in a few weeks' time? So 7 to 10% maintenance reduction. We're seeing a 20% reduction in roadside events within systems that we monitor. So whether that's after treatment systems, some of the big roadside failures are things like a NOx sensor failure, an EGR cooler failure, certainly the DPF. And so avoiding those instances, and even on things like a battery, a non-start event, that just has a cascading impact to your operations. A 20% reduction in those really creates a lot of goodwill for our customers. And then the other thing that we're seeing is also about a 2 to 3% reduction in fuel cost, in addition to what folks are seeing from things like driver behavior management and aerodynamics. And this is really achieved through monitoring specifically the after treatment system and making sure that those components are healthy. And it's one thing for them to cause a roadside breakdown, but it's another thing for a DPF to run at a 60% clogged rate for 12 months at a time, and it's just going to be burning unnecessary fuel over that year. So allowing them to be more efficient and certainly more energy focused is a benefit that our customers are seeing as well.
So I know we mentioned a lot of big names, right, that people all recognize, but do your products also fit with the smaller fleets and the smaller organizations as well, or are you guys pretty much focused on, hey, let's go talk to the big guys out there that run 5,000 trucks?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think another benefit of somebody like Uptake, I mentioned earlier the investment that we've made in our platform, the ability to invest $300 million in an industrial AI platform focused specifically on heavy assets allows us to now scale into a lot smaller customers, a lot of different use cases, and also the fact that we have we have over 40 pre-trained predictive models specific to commercial vehicles. So you don't need to come to us with 10,000 vehicles with all of that data to train the models. We've done all that work with all of the other customers that we've worked with for the past 6 years. So somebody with 100 trucks can come to Uptake and say, let me leverage all of the information and all of the investment that you have made over the past 6 years to benefit my operations. And they'll be able to turn on our application within a few weeks' time and see the benefit and the insights coming out.
Yeah, and I can even see the really advanced or larger truck repair facilities that are out there, groups. They may be interested in reselling or partnering with you just because it helps their customers at the end of the day. And I keep telling people this all the time. Just being in the business of repairing trucks is no longer good enough. You need to provide value to your customers. So anything you can do remotely, predictively, or just really help out goes a long way towards helping people fix their trucks and take care of their customers, because that's what it's really all about. So, and I'd be amiss if I didn't ask this question. I see it looks like you're working from home today, like a lot of people are. You're up in Illinois. Where are you guys at as a company this year with COVID and everything else? Like our lives got all twisted up here about 6 months ago, 7 months, whatever that is. Like where are you guys at and what's the plan here?
We are no different than anybody else. We had our whole worlds thrown into a whirlwind. So we've been working at home as a business since early March, and have made plans to sustain this for the foreseeable future. The thing about Chicago is, densely populated office buildings and elevators and temperature checks just to get in the door. It becomes really an inefficient practice to get back to the office at this point, and certainly from a safety perspective as well. But, the good thing that we've seen as a business is our productivity has increased drastically. When you think about our data science team, our programmers, the folks that are writing code on a day-to-day basis, their productivity has really increased substantially. So we've made it through as a business. We've had some areas of challenge, but certainly some areas that we've excelled at. And from a sales perspective, there certainly was a lull in the transportation space as everybody was trying to figure out what the next move was. But over the past 6 to 8 weeks, things have increased. And then one of the things that we see coming out of this is the pressure to digitize. Yep. This forced us to digitize from a personal perspective. Zoom calls, making sure that you're always on Slack or Meet or Teams or whatever it is. But now industrial companies are saying, how can I monitor my equipment remotely? How can I make sure my technicians are enabled with the proper technology so that they don't need to be in a very condensed building at all times? So we've seen a lot of folks trying to determine what that next strategy is from a digital transformation perspective. So
I remember reading an article back in like March or April when the whole U.S. is just shutting down and everything, and it made a comment in there how this is really going to be a good thing in the long term in terms of technology and how we change and how we do business, and a lot of innovation is going to come out of this whole thing. And I didn't get it then, but I really kind of get it now, because hearing what you're saying, we've had the same thing. We've had some departments that are way more productive at home, and they're going to stay at home for a long time. And other departments, not so much, but it's typically more inexperienced people, or people that need to be here, warehouse and production and those types of things. So, you being VP of sales, I'm sure you guys do a lot of trade shows, and I'm assuming you guys are doing a lot of meet and greets and flying over the country and meeting people. How have you guys been able to adapt, and what's your plan now with kind of trade shows canceled? Like how do you move forward and continue to sell? I mean, we got the same concerns here.
Yeah, it's a big question, and we've I've personally been involved in a number of digital conferences over the past few months. It's a lot different than being able to shake hands and talk to all your peers in a single location, but we all have to adapt, and we need to continue to utilize the technologies that we have at our disposal, whether it's social media, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's continuous digital conferences. I think the podcast arena is going to continue to get more and more important as well. So the fact is, I think we've learned that we may no longer need to sit across from the table and shake somebody's hand to get a deal done. And that may be an inefficient practice that we've been leaning on for a long time. That may be changed. But in order to continue to build brand awareness and mind share and making sure that your thoughts are presented to the industry properly. It's gonna take some different technologies and some different techniques.
Yeah, same situation here. I mean, we literally pulled out several $100,000 in expenses because we're not traveling, we're not doing trade shows. We actually even scaled back a lot of our online marketing when COVID happened because I was like, man, who's going to go buy a $7,000 to $10,000 tool in the middle of a pandemic and their business is shut down? Like, why go get sales leads now? And you're right. It was really tough for our salespeople to call people up in March and April and even May, being like, "Hey, you want to buy a $10,000 tool?" Like it just wasn't happening. But I think hopefully you guys are seeing what we see, where customers now are kind of like, okay, the dust is settled. Business for the most part for a lot of people is kind of coming back to normal if it's not at normal already. You've seen a lot of the similar things from customers that you guys are talking to out in the field as well, and kind of a perception change from March and April.
Yeah, absolutely. The past 6 to 8 weeks have really seen a lot of uptick in conversations and interest, and certainly as folks were planning for a second half of uncertainty, but also for a 2021 of how do we now cut spend out of our business. One of the big trends that we also see is doing more with less. We've all had to trim back a little bit in terms of maybe headcount or expenses or investment. So how do I do more with less? And that's where kind of these digital transformation things come in and really start to pay off and create benefits across the organization.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So, Braden, we'll wrap this one up here. I really appreciate you coming on the show. But if someone wants to reach out to Uptake or reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys? How do people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website, we've got a landing page set up, uptake.com/DL podcast. That's the best way to get in contact with us. You can see some of our information and our products there, and certainly connect with one of our sales team members as well.
So I'm pointing at Robert here to remind him to make sure we put that in the show notes and make sure that we have that on the social media stuff when we put it out there. And hopefully get some people out there just talking about your product and trying it out. I've personally seen the back end of this thing, guys. I've seen how it works. And they're absolutely right. You can definitely predict when things are going to fail, when you have the right technology behind it and the right group of people helping you. And Uptake is definitely that organization that can help you do those things. So again, Braden, thank you very much for coming on. And for everyone else, I just want to say again, thank you for coming to watch this on Season 2, Episode 1. It has been awesome. We have a ton of people coming on. We're always looking for more. If you're interested or want to reach out to the show, just hit us up at thedl@diesellaptops.com. And with that said, and I'll just say it again, diagnostics done right. Thank you for watching.